And welcome back. So I've got a bunch of videos to pre-record. I'm going to get through a decent amount of them today and tomorrow because we got Valentine's Day coming up. My girlfriend wants to spend time with her man. But no, obviously because of, things along those lines, I want to pre-record everything. Plus the week of What If is coming up. So I got to get into a lot of pre-recording. But this is a special birthday video. Honestly, I cannot remember who gave me this. I tried looking up who gave me who asked for this, but I couldn't find it right from the get. 1 second. I'm actually going to just try to very quickly see if I can find the person who gave me the suggestion. Is it in this video that they gave me a suggestion? Let's find out. No, but anyway, they asked for a character profile on Nnoitra Gilga, the fifth Espada from Bleach. So, I mean, yeah, and that's cool. That's fair. You know what? I've never done a character profile video before. I can't say I am either good or bad at them, so let's give it a shot. So, right from the get, let's just go through the history, and then we'll go through the abilities and stuff like that. Nnoitra Gilga was he's dead, fifth Espada in Aizen's army of Arrancar. Meaning he was basically the midway point of strength in the Espada. Like most of the Espada and most of the Arrancar, but most of the Espada, we do not know what his past was like up until he became a member of Aizen's army. We do know that all the Espada carry a aspect of death with them. They all represent that. It's very likely that in his time previous to being a Arrancar, that aspect still drove him. As we see that aspect does kind of dictate their personality to some degree. We learned a bit more about that in the Can't Fear Your Own World novels with Grimmjow and Luffy. But his backstory is, however, that not backstory. The earliest we know about him is years prior to Aizen actually defecting and leaving the Soul Society and just living in Hueco Mundo for the time being, raising his army. When he was still forming his army, he held the rank of the 8th Espada. He was the 8th strongest, which we know tells us that the Espada can change ranks over time. We know there used to be Espada that are no longer Espada. We know that there were other generations of Espada. We know that, for instance, Añero was the only Espada who was still around from the original generation of Espada, but he held the rank of 8th, and basically he was as he has always been. He laid waste to entire colonies of Hollows just for the sake of it, on Aizen's orders to seek Vassaloria, but he just didn't care. He's a murderer. He's cold. He's ruthless. He's crude. And he doesn't hesitate to even, attack and beat injured opponents. This stems from, honestly, an inferiority complex, which I think is derived a bit from his aspect of death. Now, Nnoitora's aspect of death is despair. Now, this was one of the ones that when I looked at his character, I'm like, how does despair factor into this? But the more I thought about it, the more I watched the series, the more I rewatched the series, reread it, and the more I heard other people's opinions on this, the more it kind of added up to this. He is a little bit like Ikaku in Kenpachi, in the sense that he has an extreme lust and hunger for battle. But he has his idea of a fulfilling end to his life would be to die on his 2 feet, basically, while drowning his own blood while dying. He basically seeks out death from his opponents. But at the time, he could never either find someone who could actually beat him, or the people who would beat him would spare his life. This is why he has such a ingrained hatred of Neliel. We have no idea how he is with, like, say, Haribel or any of the affected number or 4 through 1s, or 4 through 0 even. But we know for a fact that he hated Neliel. He hated her. Now, whether or not this is sexist or not, we'll never know. He does seem to have a inferiority complex, particularly towards female Espada, though. as he, I believe, states about not wanting to lose to a girl. Um, so it seems to be that he does think that males should be superior to women, which makes him both a male chauvinist and a sexist. Uh, in that time frame between then and when Neliel was no longer an Espada, he basically concocted a plan to weaken her and kick her out and hopefully kill her. He failed in killing her, but succeeded in weakening her to the point where she could no longer be an Espada and lost her memory. We have no idea when he was promoted to the fifth Espada, but we know as time went on, he became the fifth Espada. Now, whether or not this is because he got stronger or the levels of Espada changed, we'll never know. Honestly, we don't even know if Anjiro, we know he was still a part of the Espada. That's the thing, because he remained Espada through and through until the end. But we have no idea if Anjiro was actually stronger than him at one point, or if Anjiro was the ninth Espada at that point. We just don't know. What we do know is that as time went on, he would become the fifth Espada. Now, as I said, his personality is one of pretty much extreme, crude, sadistic, male sexist, chauvinist inferiority complex. This is the guy who believes himself the strongest no matter what. He is someone who does not like to lose, hates to lose, and furthermore does not want to lose against someone he deems weak. In his opinion, a woman is weak. He will not stand losing to a woman. Anyone he is the strongest Espada, even though he's clearly not. I am the strongest. I am the strongest. This is where despair comes in for him. His inferiority complex. He longs ultimately for a glorious end. At the same time, though, no one's been able to give it to him, and those stronger than him who could have given it to him would not do it. So now he's just like, no, I am the strongest. Screw it. No, I am the strongest. Always seeking battle. It basically kind of is counterintuitive with his aspect to a certain degree. Despair would mean like there's no hope at all. It would imply hopelessness. It really would. That's never really struck me with the character, which I found interesting. Even though his aspect is despair, you would think that would mean that he has just complete lack of hope in him. But I don't think he's very hopeless in the sense that, I'm never going to get stronger. No, it's more that he's just nihilistic and kind of wants his own needs a little bit. Although true nihilism, that would be Ukiura. That would be the true nihilism of the group. But if someone wants me to do a profile on that, we'll do another profile someday. I don't plan to make this a series, honestly. At least not from right now. I got more than enough on my plate without making this a series. But if someone wants more, I'll do more. So yeah, he's a little counterintuitive, but ultimately what he just seeked was battle. He seeked battle, and he ultimately got it. As he showed up, duked it out with Ichigo for a little bit, failed, duked it out with Neliel, having their reunion. But only to show that the Espada's numbers changed after a while, so her 3 no longer mattered. And then Kenpachi came in, which gave me one of my favorite fights in that entire arc. Now, I mean the Huecamundo arc. I don't necessarily mean the entire arc from Huecamundo to the fake Karakura. I love, first off, Kenpachi's one of my favorite characters, so that helps. But I just like that fight where it is literally just these two guys beating the ever-loving crap out of each other. But it was a fight that really highlighted his ego and arrogance. This leads us into the strengths of him. He had many abilities that most Espada have. He had high Reiatsu. He was capable of using Sunito. He had great strength, durability. He could use a Sero. He could particularly fire one from his tongue, which was interesting. But one of the things he was known for was he had the strongest Hiro. I can never pronounce it right because of just pronunciation. Hero, basically armored skin, iron skin of the Espada. This meant that it was so strong, even Kenpachi, at least in the beginning of the fight, could not cut this guy. He literally could just grinded the blade against him, and it just created sparks. But ultimately, Kenpachi, being Kenpachi, ultimately was able to overcome his Yaro, which was, very impressive. Even Nnoitra was like, "Yeah, you think this matters at all?" And then Kenpachi's just like, "Yeah, let's go one more round." And I love that aspect of that part of the fight too, because that's when Nnoitra realized that this guy's different. Like I can't take him on like I am now. And it was his inferiority complex and his fear that enabled him to accidentally remove Kenpachi's eye patch and just cause things to go to crap. This then led to the release of his Zanpakuto. Now, Zanpakuto really was very different than most of the other Zanpakutos we see from the Espada. I mean, most of the Espada have just standard swords. Espada's Yami, Anyero. Actually, Anyero technically had a sword, although his Zanpakuto did take the form of like this weird leech thing. He was just mimicking Kaion's sword. But Yami, Sayapuro, Grimmjow, Zamari, Ukiura, thinking of everyone, and Stark, they all had standard katanas for swords. It was really only a handful of the Espada. Again, Anyero, Nnoitra, Baragon, and Haribel, who had non-traditional looking Zanpakutos. And this thing is probably the most non-traditional of any of them. Even Baragon has basically just like a great axe. This guy's got a freaking... We know now, in hindsight, is basically taking the forms of the sides that he ultimately forms. But what it looks like in its sealed state is more of a double-headed scythe axe, I guess, on a chain, which I have no idea where that chain is leading, by the way. I mean, if you look at this picture, where is that chain actually? Is it coming out of his ass? Is the chain just coming out of his ass? But no, it's a very unique looking weapon, for all things considered. There are others, Shinigami or Arrancar, who do have some level of uniqueness to their Zanpakuto. We know that, oh god, I don't even remember the name of the Primera Espada? No, that's the one. The Privalon? The former Espadas. I can't remember the names of them. She had a yo-yo, for example. I remember that. There was another guy who had like knuckle dusters, basically. That kind of could conduct electricity to some degree, as a Zanpakuto. So other Espada, Arrancars do have some unique Zanpakutos. This one just stands out to me. His Zanpakuto, his real power is known as Santa Teresa. Santa Teresa, but I remember hearing it as Santa Teresa. Actually, yeah, it's Tercera. Santa Tercera, which basically is just Spanish for praying mantis. And his release is Pray. Santa Tercera. Which, yeah, that would make sense for someone who, it's a praying mantis style. Now, remember, when they release their powers, they do take on basically their sealed power and what it actually was when they were full-on hollows. And, the release brings back a bit of their true form. So, I guess we can kind of gather that in his original hollow state, he was a 4-armed, possibly 6-armed, insect-like hollow. Because it is a praying mantis is the name of his Zanpakuto, more or less. So he most likely was a type of insectoid hollow. Whereas we know Grimmjow, his Pantera, he was a cat. Makes sense. He was a cat. We don't know. That's the thing. Besides Ukiura and Haribel, we do not know the former hollow forms of the original of the Espada. We don't know what they look like. We saw what the Ajukas. I can never pronounce the name of. I can do Menos Grande, and I can do Vasto Lourdes. Ajukas. Ajuka. I can't pronounce it. At least not without having the name in front of me. Anyway, though, that was what Grimmjow looked like. So this guy most likely looked like some sort of insectoid hollow, with his limbs actually probably being the sides. Now, in his form, obviously, he gains his spiritual pressure goes up, but he gains enhanced regeneration as long as he's got a Ryatsu to sustain it. He can even regrow limbs. However, dealing significant enough damage renders it ineffective. Hence, when Kenpachi just cut him down. Enhanced strength, his durability, he can grow the 2 extra limbs from underneath, and obviously weapon generation. He's not a complicated individual like say Silopero is, or he has an immense ability like Coyote Stark does. No, he is just a sheer powerhouse. He is a melee fighter through and through, but that doesn't make him any less dangerous. There's a reason he's still ranked the 5th strongest in the Arrancar, because he is stronger from Ryatsu perspective than any of the other guys behind him, save Yami when he releases his. So he always had one of my favorite designs. Like when you talk about releases, Nnoitra, this is an intimidating looking guy. You get Onyeiro, he's a big blob monster. I mean, yeah, if real world happens, yeah, that might be intimidating. But if you're a Shinigami, especially like a captain, you look at that, you're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Silopero is creepy looking. I'll give him that. I don't know if I'd be necessarily intimidated, but yeah, no, it's not really badass. Zomari is just weird. Grimmjow really doesn't look that impressive. I like the cat armor thing. I do like it to a degree, but it's not that impressive, honestly, in my mind. Ukiura, he looks good, and then his secondary release is pretty badass. I give him that. Then you have Haribel, who that's Haribel's more fan service than anything else, but she's still got a good design overall. I mean, let's be fair, Barigon is the Grim Reaper, and Coyote Stark, I love the Gunslinger motif. Not necessarily intimidating, but really cool looking. And then Yami is just a freaking kaiju. This, though, when you see someone like this, you're facing off against some guy with 4 arms and 4 sides, and the crescent moon on his head for horns. I'm like, that's a bit more of an imposing figure. I always liked it. And his fight with Kenpachi is still to date one of the highlights of the Wako Mundo arc in terms of fights. You got the Grimmjow versus Ichigo fight, obviously. That goes without saying. The Mayuri versus Silopero fight. I love it, particularly the speech about perfection. I could do this. If I ever do a Mayuri video, like a video profile of Mayuri, I will have the speech up and I will do the voice, because I can do it actually pretty good Mayuri when I get feeling the mood. I just mess with my girlfriend all the time, just to saying random shit in Mayuri voices. Just say, Namu, get the rubber gloves. We're going discoing. Anyway, so yeah, but for me, like the Kenpachi Nnoitra fight, that stood out to me as just being best. And plus, you get 2 of my favorite tracks in that fight: Treachery and Invasion. Just dun 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 dun, and then Kenpachi just doesn't go down, and that look on his face and that inner monologue is like, what's going on here? What the hell? I'm the one cutting him. He's the one bleeding. Why isn't he going down? And Kenpachi is just loving every moment of this. And it's that moment where it's like, I what the hell? And it's like, I am the strongest. I am the strongest. And you get the end of his now. A question we may have here in the new Breaths of Hell arc, if and ever we get a new actual true arc for that arc, is Nnoitra in hell? We know Silopero's in hell. It stands to reason that many of the Espada who are dead could very well be in hell. We know Onyeiro's in hell, if the Hellverse arc is anything to go by. So it's very possible that all the Hollows who die, well, all the Arrancar save for probably Ukiura, and probably Stark, are most likely in hell. And we know Haribel and Grimmjow are still alive, are probably in hell. So could we get like a rematch between him and Kenpachi? Honestly, my hopes for that is we actually get Kenpachi versus all the former Kenpachis and proving why he is the number 1 Kenpachi. Like, he is the true Kenpachi. All you other guys were posers. Like, that would be my hope for, like, a Kenpachi fight in the new Breaths of Hell arc. That'd be just unreal. And plus, we get to see all the former Kenpachis. That'd be awesome. But I mean, there's possibilities we could see with him, but in his last moments, he finally got what he wanted: to die on his feet, choking on his own blood. And that's the end. That is the sad tale of Nnoitra, a individual who, despite all of his power, was ultimately a man just full with despair and hopelessness, and honestly just wanting to die and finding a worthy opponent to kill him. which is weird, contradicting his statement about wanting to be the strongest and thinking him the strongest. But when you really just see a guy that battle hungry and looking for, something to truly kind of match him, it does kind of ultimately go with that motif in the end. So that is my profile on Nnoitra Gilga. He is, I would say, when I say he's my favorite Espada, he's not my favorite Espada. My favorite Espada, it's probably Stark. Stark is probably my favorite, with a close second coming into either Silopero or maybe Baragon. But I mean, he probably falls either into the 5th or 4th spot. Like, my least favorite is probably Oniero, followed by Yami. And then the other ones fall somewhere in there. I mean, I like Haribel a lot too. I don't hate any of them, but they're definitely weaker characters than others in the Espada rankings. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know what you think about Nnoitra. Did I do a good job of the profile? Do you think it needs improvement? I don't plan to do any of these again anytime soon unless requested. This was a birthday request, so that's why I did it. By the way, and I did it, obviously. If you want to give me a birthday request to do, I'll do it. That's not an issue. But don't give it to me on your birthday. Give it to me prior to your birthday so I can plan to do it on your birthday. Because if you give me their suggestion on your birthday, you're basically catching me flat-foot, and I already have like things I need to do during the day. So that's how I'm able to actually do so many of these videos, apart from the fact that I don't edit. Is the fact that I plan out for the videos throughout the week. Occasionally I'll be spontaneous and do a video, but that it helps for me to actually schedule things out. Until then, though, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you folks for the next one. Later.